All of this footage was taken from my live streams. I stream every Tuesday and Wednesday night on both YouTube and Twitch from 6:30 to 10:30 Central Time. Hope to see you there. All right, here we go. Week 3 of the Pantheon, or the Rhulk Indomitable difficulty. I know I'm a bit late in getting this guide out, but thankfully we still have 3 weeks left to complete Pantheon as of the making of this video, so I hope this helps you out. So just a disclaimer, if Oryx from last week was a step up in difficulty from Atrax 1, Rhulk Indomitable is like 3 steps up from Oryx Exalted, so it's very tough this week. So if you don't have a really strong build, if you're not comfortable staying alive in content where you're underleveled, and if you're not able to pump out significant amounts of damage while avoiding a bunch of new hazards added to these raid encounters, you're going to have a really rough time. Just being realistic with you. But in this video, I'm going to show you everything that my team did, any strategy or little thing that I found that helps us stay alive or deals more damage, all that stuff to hopefully get you guys the clear. That's my main goal here. And because this content is such a dramatic increase in difficulty from regular raids, I would highly suggest go run the normal raids first, get familiar with the mechanics, then come back to Pantheon. So this video does assume that you already know how to run these encounters. All I'm going to be covering today, just like my other Pantheon videos, is the changes that have taken place and how to stay alive, how to deal damage, all that. If you are interested in raid guides though, I do have a playlist here, so I'll include that. I haven't tackled every raid in the game yet. I'm working on it, but the ones that I do have are in that playlist, and I would recommend checking out a channel like Fallout, who happens to make very good guides on maybe ones that I'm missing. So disclaimer out of the way, let's get into it. On Rhulk Indomitable difficulty, you will be capped at 15 power under enemies, so everything hits a lot harder and everything will be a lot more tanky, so more dangerous. You will need to make your way through 6 bosses, the same as Oryx Exalted, but now with Rhulk Indomitable on top. So you've got Golgoroth, Caretaker, Explicator, Atrax 1, Oryx, and Rhulk. Thankfully, you can get checkpoints, so you don't have to do this all in one sitting. Another thing to note is that we're back on the class warfare buff from week 1. So popping your class ability when surrounded by teammates will give you and your team a buff to all outgoing damage, capping at ×3 for a 20% buff. You also gain a 20% damage resist while this is active. So you should try to have this buff up as often as possible, and it is a necessity in DPS phases to pump out enough damage to finish in the time allotted for that bonus score. So extremely important, always have class warfare ×3. We also have arc and stasis surges this week, so I'd highly recommend using arc most of the time because stasis just isn't able to cut it for damage supers or anything like that. There are some good stasis weapons out there, so if you find one like Cold Comfort, go ahead and use that. All right, let's cover what strategies my team used to get the platinum time and high score to clear every encounter, and we'll start with Golgoroth. And if you don't know the new mechanics of the Pantheon fights for the first 5, go ahead and check out my other guides here. You really shouldn't be doing Rhulk Indomitable first anyways. Go ahead and get those done first and then maybe come back to this videos. So for Golgoroth, the only change up that my team did was switch what we used for damage. We used arc, heavy grenade launchers, and cloud strike for some pretty solid damage. I have an auto loading and explosive light Wendigo that seemed to work pretty well for multiple different bosses here in Pantheon. You can definitely get a 1 phase here, but you don't need it for the platinum time, thankfully. I've also seen some teams use Thunderlord here, which is definitely a great option for a lot of DPS phases this week. Thunderlord's kind of the GOAT weapon, so use that if you want. And for the people taking the gaze, the same strategy applies there. Just grab a machine gun, preferably something like Commemoration or Song of Your Ute with Reconstruction, so you can easily take out all of those Axion darts, and make sure to have a sniper that can easily one-shot his back to take that gaze. This is the easiest fight in the whole raid gauntlet, so if you're struggling here, just know it only gets tougher. So next, we've got the Caretaker. Sunshot is still a top tier option for ad clear and for any guardians taking the gaze. I was on running duty for R clear, so I don't have any footage of me using Sunshot, but that's what everyone was using. Trust me, it works great. Runners, it's pretty tough this week when you're entering the rooms. Wizards can absolutely melt your HP, so make sure to play your life before anything else. If you can't grab 3 symbols in one run, that's okay. As long as the gaze grab team can do their job effectively, you should have plenty of time to get an extra run in. If you need to, you can make mistakes here and there. It's fine. And for damage, we kept almost the same loadout as we did for Golgoroth. Just use an arc heavy grenade launcher paired with an arc fusion rifle. I don't know why I wasn't using an arc fusion rifle here, but we ended up being just fine. To me, that's the best pairing that you can have. Reminder, pop your class abilities to activate class warfare for each other to increase your DPS by 20%. It's huge, guys. You do not want to miss out on this. And you also want to make sure to go for the 2-floor clear here. I don't think a 3-floor platinum time is possible. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but the 2-floor is just easier. Anytime you go to the 3rd third floor, it seems like the run just falls apart because it's a lot more tough. Ideally, you want as many Titans with Curse of the Falling Star, Thunder Crashes here as possible to max out your damage. And of course, you want to wait until the end of the third plate for each damage phase to pop those burst supers to get the highest possible damage output. If you didn't know, the Caretaker allows you to deal additional damage past his soft cap HP threshold if you can wait towards the end of that third plate. As you can see here, you just kind of nuke past that. So relatively easy two-phase here. It might take a couple tries of getting used to it, but once you get to that top floor, he stands a bit more still, so something like a sniper rifle or maybe linear fusion can work here if you want. But yeah, that is the Caretaker all done for this week. Not too bad. Let's keep pressing on. And our third fight again is the Explicator, which will be the wall fight for most people. If you made it through the first two easily like we did and struggled here, don't worry, you're not alone. The fire tornadoes are more lethal than ever on the plates, so always be looking at every plate to make sure it's clear. Call it out for your teammates. Just say, hey, R1 plate, tornado, because a lot of times you can't see it if you're on the plate. The MVP weapon for this whole encounter, in my opinion, was the Indebted Kindness sidearm with Volt Shot that you can get from Warlord's Ruin. If you don't have one, just go farm Warlords until you get yourself one. But if you don't have one of these, maybe you don't want to farm one, I would suggest using an Arc Fusion Rifle to deal with those terrestrial lieutenants that spawn in on the plates. They dish out a ton of damage. They can nuke your health very quickly, so get cover when you can. Another tip here is to try to have a Strand Titan here on the team. Yes, it does sacrifice a bit of damage output by losing a Thunder Crash during damage, but it makes quick work of the Tormentor that can easily wreck your team if you're not careful. There were times where the Tormentor would just one-shot 3 people all at once if we left him alive too long, so you don't want that to happen. And also, a good Strand Titan should really never die during the fight at all, since there's so much damage resistance potential, so it's just helpful kind of all around. For damage, we again used Arc Heavy Grenade Launchers. I loved my setup here with the Wendigo with auto-loading on it. It was perfect for those short windows of damage that you have with each plate. I would basically dump the Wendigo mag, then swap to Indebted Kindness for a bit more damage output, and by the time I was ready for the next plate, my Wendigo would have reloaded itself and I could dump the mag again. Very helpful. It's not necessary to have this, but it's a great option if you have it. A GL with Envious Assassin also can work fine here. You just want to make sure you're outputting damage as often as you can. Another extremely important tip here that a lot of people miss out on is you want to make sure you're damaging him all at the same time, because once that first bullet hits the Explicator, that's when the damage window starts. So do a simple 3, 2, 1 damage, and then everyone can burst it down. You'll do way more damage that way, I promise. And the damage window works the same here as it did for the Caretaker. You can output additional damage if you wait to use your burst supers until the end of the third plate. But guys, that is the Explicator fight. Good luck. This one's tough. If you make it past here, I promise you, you can beat the whole thing. And Atrax 1 is up next. Nothing really changed here for strategy, so we won't spend too much time on it. The main changes from week 1 Atrax is that I switched to a sniper rifle to handle the servitors safely, but feel free to use Indebted Kindness again if you have it. Fusion rifles also work great here. Thankfully, again, even at minus 15 power, the 1 floor damage phase is still possible with enough Titans using Curse of the Falling Star on their Thunder Crash, and you will also be able to obtain that 500,000 score that you need for that high score achievement. You just have to make sure you kill everything. Somehow we were able to get 501,000 without killing that Tormentor, but you can feel free to kill it if you want some easy extra points. And if you don't one phase it, that's fine. We actually didn't one phase it on our first clear. Just have someone take the space pod down and use the Lament to damage that copy. But for the actual damage phase though, we actually still used Parasite. Even though Parasite is a solar weapon, it still works just fine and it melts Atrax with those Thunder Crashes. I've seen some people use Grand Overture as well, but I think Parasite's just a little bit easier to use. And for Final Stand, just make sure to pop your class Warfare, have everyone switch to Lament, and you'll need to take out 2 Atrax copies with this strategy in order to secure the kill. Nice and easy. This is like a 3-minute fight. And now for Oryx, probably the second easiest fight in my book. Even though it's Arc Surge, we actually still used Whisper of the Worm for damage here to get a very easy 2-phase. It's just that good. Like, Whisper is so powerful. If you still need Whisper, it's free for everybody right now, and I have guides on it, so you can check those out here. But for other weapons, I decided to use Zauli's Bane for ad clear here, but Indebted Kindness can also work great. Like, you can use Indebted Kindness for every fight here, and you're going to be fine. I didn't change any of my loadout from last week, so we really don't need to get into any details here. Again, just keep watching out for those Light Eater Knights so you don't lose any bombs. That will prevent you from getting a 2-phase, but that's really the only thing that you have to worry about. A Strand Titan, again, again, does wonders here for the Tormentor that will spawn in during the damage phase. Just wait until the end of the damage phase, have the Titan pop that super, and then suspend the Tormentor. Everyone can nuke it down very easily. And yeah, I don't think you guys should have any trouble with Oryx or with the platinum score here. So let's just move on to Rhulk Indomitable. So here we are. I don't have a full raid guide for Vow of the Disciple yet, so I'm just going to recommend you watch this awesome guide by Fallout in the card here. Just fast forward to the Rhulk section. But again, guys, if you haven't run Vow of the Disciple ever, don't start with Pantheon. It's not going to be fun. But again, if you want it, it's there. Once I make my own raid guide, I will probably swap out Fallout's video for my own video. Sorry, Fallout. Got to use my own content. But all right, this fight is brutal. No way around it. Is it as tough as Explicator? For some teams, yeah, it's going to be just as hard, maybe even tougher. But hopefully these tips will help you through it. I'm going to try my best. So what makes this fight so difficult is obviously the fight itself, but more so the short time that you have to complete it. Almost no mistakes can be made across the entire fight, and everybody has to know every mechanic inside and out. Every second matters, so your damage output needs to be extreme to secure the high score. For damage, I don't feel comfortable recommending anything else other than the top G weapon itself, which is Thunderlord. It's just so easy to use here. It pumps out so much damage with arc surges, and I've seen some people squeeze out slightly more damage with something like a heavy GL and rockets, but in my opinion, it's way more effort to use those. It's a lot more risky as well. Like, why put yourself through that if you don't have to? So just use Thunderlord. It's easy. The fight itself though, what's changed? Well, every time you reduce that orange force field by having the 2 correct totems dunked on, a Tormentor will spawn in. Of course, my team like to have a Warlock use the Cenotaph Mask and tag it with Divinity, then have the rest of the team kill it to generate heavy ammo. And guys, you're going to need a ton of heavy ammo here. That Warlock that's using the Cenotaph Mask can also tag as many Majors as they can with Cenotaph 2 just to generate as much heavy ammo as possible. But let's talk about dunkers, since I was actually the dunker for my team. You have to make sure that immediately after you dunk, you are looking up, you're shooting the crystal, you're grabbing Leeching Force and getting Emanating. If you happen to miss an Emanating blast, like maybe you're not paying attention, you have just added 30 seconds onto your time, which you cannot afford, I promise you. So always prioritize getting Leeching. The ad clear team can handle everything else for you. But speaking of ad clears, you got to make sure that you're really nuking enemies, because dunkers can easily be killed if there are too many enemies alive, especially on the L3 and R3 totems. But once you guys get 6 dunks in successfully, just like the normal fight, you can progress up to the DPS floor. And this is where the fight really gets hectic. Rhulk is going to summon a Dark Rhulk, which cannot be damaged, but it can definitely damage you. And man, do those kicks hurt. 2 kicks from either Rhulk will kill you, so please prioritize your life. Dying here can really spiral down the fight and add unnecessary time. Another important tip here is for the shooting the glaive portion. Just have everyone shoot it as quickly as possible. Whoever happens to get leeching can then get emanating by standing in the blast so they can dunk. This whole section is going to take a really long time if you only have one person that's dedicated to shooting the glaive, getting emanating, then dunking. Everyone has to help with dunking to get this fight done quickly. But once you dunk 4 times and destroy all 4 crit spots, you can start damage. Make sure to have at least 1 Well of Radiance ready to go. You can have 2 if you want, but yeah, pop your class Warfares, ensure you've got triple arc surges on, and watch that Thunderlord drain the HP bar. As for popping your burst supers, really the only strategy that I had was to use it if I ever felt like I was in danger, like if Dark Rhulk was about to kick me, or maybe I'd dump my entire Thunderlord mag, then I would pop it. But you can see here, the damage just speaks for itself. Thunderlord is great. What you should be shooting for is to try to get to the O. Right here, I'll put an arrow toward it for the first damage phase. If you can't get there, you should probably reset if you want that platinum score. But this was our best damage phase that we had right towards the end, and it ended up getting us the clear. So the main thing for this fight is just speed with no mistakes. It is really tough. Next week is going to be even more brutal, which is just a crazy and scary thought. But as I said last week, don't stress if you can't finish it. This is top level stuff. If you have never run any of these raids and don't understand all the mechanics inside and out, this is just going to be a painful experience for you. But since we do have 3 weeks left, you technically do have time to run these raids on their normal difficulties. So please join the Discord, ask for help. We will help you out. We also have Pantheon runs that are happening, mostly Atrax 1 and Oryx Exalted stuff. The Rhulk Indomitable, only a couple teams have done that. But guys, I really hope that you can get a clear in this week. I hope that this helped you. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop me a comment. I will try to answer what I can, but of course, join the Discord. And as always, I like to thank my channel members, the Elite Bears. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. The support has been awesome lately, and I'm appreciative for every single one of you. But guys, I will see you in the Discord, the next video, or the next live stream Tuesday at 6:30 Central Time.